When Ed asked me if I would say a few words about at the kickoff, I said, well, normally I deal with national security issues and national campaigns, as Ben just mentioned. But it struck me that this is a very important time, and there are some similarities in the reasons why I think this is such an important election nationally and why I support Ed Lowing for city council. In July, uh, Tom Friedman from the New York Times wrote a very good article saying that Joe Biden's bumper sticker, in contrast to Trump's Make America Great Again, or Mike Pence's awkward phrase, Make America Great Again, should be instead bumper stickers saying respect science, respect nature, and respect each other. And it occurred to me that I think there's some similarities between why that's important to think about that in the national election and in the local election as well. So since I am a national security and foreign policy specialist, I'll say just a few words about why that's important in thinking about electing Joe Biden. And then I'll turn and say why those same themes, the Aretha Franklin theme, I think of it as the respect theme, is important for Ed Lowing as well. With respect to nationally and Donald Trump, I think it's quite remarkable to look at his policies with respect to lack of respect for specialists, for science, nature, and for each other. Now, we all know that with respect to COVID-19, whether it's the coming up with fake remedies, disinfectants, drugs that are not proven, the failure to wear masks, et cetera, which has cost us 185,000 lives in this country. But with respect to national security, all those issues are the same. Respect science. The science tells you that it is remarkably difficult to shoot down an ICBM, a long-range missile, with a defensive missile, because you can put chaff or other kinds of elements onto an offensive missile, and our radars and other homing devices can't tell the difference and can't hit them. Donald Trump, however, has claimed without evidence that we can hit 97% of missiles that are launched against us. And if you shoot two, he said, we'll get them all knocked down. And that leads many people to support some of his policies towards North Korea, which, as you remember from 2017, were remarkably dangerous and could reemerge in a second term. Respect nature. Well, he rejected the Paris Climate Accord and claims that he could get a better deal, but we know from other activities he has not been able to get a better deal, and that he rejects the scientific evidence about climate change. And it leads people to think that what's going on, whether it's the forest fires in California or the extreme rain and hurricane events elsewhere, are not caused by man, but are caused by nature. And that is actually not respecting nature, and it's misidentifying the problems. And lastly, with respect to not respecting each other, we all know that this is a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement and Trump's reaction to it. But I wanted to say, in terms of national security, I think equally shocking has been his insistence that we continue to name American forts in the US military, in the South especially, for Confederate generals. Confederate generals who were traitors to the Union and who are losers in the battle. And I fully support the efforts that people have made to say we should rename those forts, again, for real American heroes. We should respect each other and name those forts for Black soldiers who joined the Union, as the poet laureate Natasha Trethewey has suggested, or as I have suggested, we should name them for indigenous warriors like Hugh Thompson, the Vietnam helicopter pilot who stopped the My Lai massacre and later went on to lecture on just war doctrine and the laws of armed conflict for every entry class at West Point. So that's my comments about Trump and why you should support Joe Biden. Let me use the same metaphor or the same bumper sticker: support science, respect nature, and respect each other for Ed. Now, I've known Ed a long time. My kids went to school with Ben, and we became friends through our children. But I also would hang out with Ed at the gym and would chat occasionally. I'd known that he was on the Planning and Transportation Commission, but hadn't really focused on that. But one day, in between workouts, I told Ed I had a really horrible experience this week because I saw a accident on the corner of Coleridge and Cowper where the city had put a temporary, very small traffic circle. And I saw cars going through very quickly and saw a girl get clipped. And Ed said, "Did you report it?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That's interesting. You might want to come to the Planning and Transportation Commission hearing about the traffic circle issues and how to deal with traffic." So first, Ed respected science. The staff member who had presented, or the bureaucrat who had presented the report, said that there had been no accidents at that particular site. And I presented both the photographs of the girl who had gotten clipped, and then said, as a scholar who has studied accident theory, writing a book called The Limits of Safety, you should not, with low probability events, just look at the number of incidents. You should also look at the number of close calls. And Ed had encouraged me to reach out to the neighbors and find out their experience with this traffic circle. And they had all reported a number of near misses where they had seen people swerve or kids go into the bush or into the sidewalk trying to avoid a car that had been going too fast. And that showed a respect for the science, the real evidence. Respect for nature. The studies that the bureaucrat who had supported this and was telling the commission that we need to do this had looked at national averages and had not looked at school crossings. And this was a school area 2 blocks from Walter Hayes that had this circle. And so you can't extrapolate national averages and say that this was what was going to happen here, when human nature is that little kids are not going to respond quite as safely or with as much knowledge about how to behave if you go into an intersection. And lastly, Ed respected the neighbors. They confirmed this information. We had some of the neighbors come because they were really concerned about what they had seen. And with Ed's support, we got the commission to overturn the recommendation of the bureaucrat who was basing this on what today would be called fake news or fake information, and actually present much better data. So when it comes to local politics, we also need to respect science, respect nature, and respect each other. And knowing Ed and knowing his positions with respect to affordable housing and parking and just the nature of the man, I strongly support Ed Lowing, and I thought that these comments might give you some context or a framework to understand that important vote that you'll be casting in November. Thank you.